views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
God is a solution. God is 12-step.
I like where he's going here.
Helps the community grow, helps us grow. Monty has done a phenomenal job.
And you're talking about taking people through a spiritual process, getting them into recovery.
Thanks, Monty, and thanks for all your support.
We need spirituality to make this thing work long term.
It's an absolute pleasure. He certainly knows a lot of people.
This is one of the places that is about the business of the solution.
And now, broadcasting on location somewhere in the vast expanse of the Pacific Northwest, it's the over-opinionated 12-stepologist, the Monty'man.
Well, greetings one and all, and welcome to another fine episode of the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show. I am your host, the Monty'man, and my co-host on line with me right now, Roger McDermott from Huntington Beach, California. Good day, Roger.
Hello, and welcome to the Monty Show.
Yeah, and today in the studio, we have, as promised, Keian Hostetler. Hostetler, is that how you pronounce it? Hostetler. Yep. It sounds German. Is that German?
I don't believe so. Don't get me right on that.
Fine. Keian's going to be sharing his experience, strength, and hope, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. Before we get into that, though, I just want to assure everybody that we do have our Black Rifle coffee, AK Espresso, sitting on the brewer, just brewing away there. And it's a prop. It's an empty bag. See, if you're watching on YouTube, empty bag. You know how many props there are when you watch TV shows, like if it's in somebody's kitchen, that's all styrofoam closets, and cabinets and stuff. There's nothing in those things. It's all fake. But the coffee is real. And we are drinking that. If you'd like some great coffee made by American veterans for Americans, visit blackriflecoffee.com and join the coffee club. And you'll be in good company with Take 12 Recovery Radio. All right, coming up on July 11th, I know that's a ways away, but it gives you plenty of time to prepare, is Recovery in the Park on July 11th from 5 to 9 p.m. at Bryant Park in Albany, Oregon. We're expecting 1,200 to 1,500 people this year. Free barbecue, live music, kids area, cardboard testimonies, community resource fair, and a lot of free giveaways. And evidently, the Monty'man is going to be emceeing that. Evidently.
Is that evidently, Monty?
Evidently. All right. Before we delve into Keian's testimony of experience, strength, and hope, and his story of redemption and recovery, of course, we need to have a little bit of fun, don't we?
Stop right there!
Because it's time for the Monty'man's Weekly Whine, where he whimpers and whines and complains about things he has no power over.
It's all right. You're safe now.
You're safe now. Stop crying. Okay, I'm a bit concerned, a little bit. Have you heard of this this term? Make sure I get it right. I don't want to offend anybody. Transability. Keian, have you heard transability?
Seems pretty familiar.
Yeah. Have you heard transability, Roger?
Actually, I know nothing about transability.
Oh, you're going to love this. All right. This is from an article in the National Post. Ottawa, Canada. When he cut off his right arm with a very sharp power tool, a man who now calls himself One Hand Jason sounds like a fellow AA member, doesn't it? No, there's One Hand Jason, and there's Railroad Fred, and there's Airplane John, and One Hand Jason. One Hand Jason let everyone believe it was an accident when he cut off his arm. But he had for months tried different means of cutting and crushing the limb that never quite felt like his own, training himself on first aid so he wouldn't bleed to death, even practicing on animal parts sourced from a butcher. Quote, "My goal was to get the job done with no hope of reconstruction or reattachment, and I wanted some method that I could actually bring myself to do it." You see, his goal was to become disabled. Yeah, you heard it right. People like Jason have been classified as transabled, feeling like imposters in their bodies, their arms and legs in full working order. Quote, "We define transability as the desire or the need for a person identified as able-bodied by other people to transform his or her body to obtain a physical impairment," end quote. That's from Alexandria Braille, a Quebec-born academic who will present a transability on the topic of the transability at this week's Congress of the Social Sciences and Humanities at the University of Ottawa. The person could want to become deaf, blind, amputee, paraplegic. It's a really, really strong desire. Researchers in Canada are trying to better understand how transabled people think and feel. Clive Baldwin, a Canadian research chair at Narrative Studies, who teaches social work at St. Thomas University, has interviewed 37 people worldwide who identify as transabled. Most of them are men. About half are in Germany and Switzerland, but he knows of a few in Canada. Most crave an amputation or paralysis, though he has interviewed one person who wanted his private parts removed. Another wanted to be blind. Many people, like One Hand Jason, arrange accidents to help achieve the goal. One dropped an incredibly heavy concrete block on his legs, an attempt to injure himself so bad an amputation would be necessary. But doctors saved his leg. He limps, but it's not the disability that he wanted. The transabled are very secretive and often keep their desires to themselves. Baldwin says one 78-year-old man told Baldwin he'd lived with the secret for 60 years and never told his wife. What? So these are people that they don't feel that they should be whole, so they want to injure themselves. They don't want to. I mean, they don't want to bleed to death, but they don't want to be whole. One report that I read, a guy actually poured bleach in his face so he would go blind because he didn't feel that it was right for him to be able to see. Roger, what's going on? You're speechless, aren't you?
I am speechless, and I've never heard of that disorder. I don't know what to say about that. That is so sad and so bizarre to me. I don't get it.
Keian, what do you think, Keian?
Honestly, I don't even know. First thing that comes to my head is, God made everybody the way, he wanted
the way they came out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see why you'd want to, change that, really, like by cutting off your arm or making yourself blind. Yeah, it's...
I mean, not that I understand. Please, I'm not passing judgment on the transgendered world at all. But if I was going to understand something at all, I probably would understand that a little easier. I don't get this wanting to remove limbs and sexual organs, not even for the purpose of changing identities, but for the purpose of wanting to destroy part of yourself. I'm at a total loss for words. I can't imagine what would drive a person. I mean, it must be a horrible. I have to say, it must be a horrible, horrible thing that a person is going through to drive themselves to a place to harm themselves to that degree in order to feel like they are whole. I'm just. This isn't funny. It's not. It's just I'm laughing not because it's funny. I'm laughing because I'm blown away. If somebody out there can shed some light on it, I would love. If somebody, maybe you're a listener and you're feeling this kind of thing, send me an email, would you? I'd love to pick your brain and find out what the heck is going on. Take 12 radio at Comcast.net. I don't know, Roger. Things are taking a turn. It's not just for the worst. It's for the crazy and insane. And I don't say that jokingly. I'm very, very concerned for people. So that's yeah. I don't know. Have you ever met anybody that wanted to harm themselves? I've met people that have cut before, that have harmed themselves by cutting, and I get that. That's that is a whole dysfunction in and of itself. But it's not for the same reasons. Have you ever known anybody that was into self-harm, Roger?
Not really. I mean,
Yeah.
other than people in addiction that don't realize they're harming themselves, but someone that wants to be disabled, I've never come across a person like that.
Yeah. Keian, you know anybody that's cut or self-harmed, or did you ever do that?
I never have. I knew a few people years back that were into cutting themselves and whatnot. And
right.
I never got the concept of it really.
I'm a wimp. I get a paper cut and I'm at the ER, man. I get an eyelash in my eye. I'm like, I gotta go see my doctor.
Yeah, I'm not big on self-inflicted pain either.
Yeah, I just
yeah, for sure.
I just don't. I don't know. Okay, well, there's that kind of an interesting weekly whine. I guess I'm whining because I'm so confused. All right. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, Keian Hostetler is our guest, going to be sharing his experience, strength, and hope. Don't go away. More Take 12 Radio when we come back.
Too much God talk for you? Then you've tuned into the wrong station. This is Take 12 Recovery Radio.
Hey there, it's the Monty'man here. Ever wonder if there is more to your recovery than abstinence? Do you feel stuck in your recovery? Well, introducing 12 Essential Insights for Emotional Sobriety by popular recovery author Dr. Alan Berger. Recently, I asked Dr. Berger this question. What is one of the main things that you hope people will absorb by reading this book, 12 Essential Insights for Emotional Sobriety?
Well, I hope what people are going to get in reading the book is, first of all, excited about the possibilities, because that's the great thing about emotional sobriety, is that it opens up so many doors to our life. It opens up a whole new consciousness. So instead of taking things personally, if we don't take things personally, we can really start to get to know the other person. We can start to understand who they are and see what's going on with them, instead of thinking what they're doing is a reflection of how they feel about me. Now, instead of focusing on life being different, or people being different, or circumstances being different, we try to figure out, what do I need to do to learn how to cope with what's going on better?
In Dr. Berger's new book, you will learn the therapeutic value of self-awareness and recover your true self as you experience emotional sobriety. For your autographed copy of 12 Essential Insights for Emotional Sobriety, visit www.abphd.com. Also available on Amazon.
This is Chris Schroeder. You are listening to Take12Radio.com. Recovery talk and positive music.
All right, welcome back to the show, and you have tuned in to the world's original and oldest recovery talk and recovery music radio station and podcast, Take12Radio.com on your internet dial. And in the studio, joining Roger and I is Keian Hostetler, good friend, Teen Challenge alumni, and a guy who has seen his fair share of dysfunction. But it's doing pretty good. And as a matter of fact, you're getting ready to do some training in the area of firefighting, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that a little bit here in just a minute, right? But what was going on with you, Ken? When I first met you, you were a ball of emotion, and you were not loving life.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I was so, how do I put this? I was somewhat pretty depressed, you know, and constantly putting myself down, and I had a lot of weight on my shoulders. Some things that I, you know, didn't really talk about with family that, you know, I had on my shoulders. And so, like, whenever I'd be having tough times, you know, my dad and my mom would be like, you know, I'm always here if you want to talk. And I would be like, all right. But at the same time, I also wouldn't talk to him about things. And
why not?
I don't know. You know, I never really got around to that. Still kind of trying to figure that out.
You think it's just the, you know, you're the kid and they're the parent?
I think
that just kind of natural divide there.
And I was pretty stubborn.
Yeah,
I agree with that, and I was always wanting to figure things out on my own. So that's why I think I didn't really want to talk to them about things. But yeah, when I came into Teen Challenge and had talked to you the first time I met you, you know, and talked to you about things, it was a big relief. A lot of weight taken off my shoulders, and yeah, I was still grieving over some losses, you know, with best friends and whatnot, and that had a big toll on me and my addiction.
What happened there?
So a few years back, but fentanyl's still pretty bad,
right?
But yeah, over the last few years, I've had buddies that have passed from fentanyl, and just recently, I had a buddy that passed from a car accident, and yeah, it was.
Was it drug related?
No. And, you know, it was really tough on me, you know, because I was really close with them. And, you know, I didn't really talk to anybody about it. I talked to my parents somewhat about it, but at the same time, I kind of kept to myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't really check up on other buddies, you know, that we all hung out with, and yeah,
Did you start isolating?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And
sure.
Even after they had passed from, you know, drug overdoses or whatever, I was still selfish enough to, you know, still be in my addiction and keep on doing what I was doing. And even though I knew that I was still selfish in my addiction, it still hurt me. And I just kept doing it. And, you know, I felt like, I don't know, I felt like a very bad person. Let's just put it that way.
Why do you think you felt bad? Because you were using narcotics, or crossing a line that you were raised differently, or why did you feel bad?
Because I'd always tell myself, you know, I'm not going to do this again, because for that specific reason, because of my buddies that passed.
Mm-hmm.
And I had also, a few years back, I was at my sister's house, and I took what I thought was Percocet, and it was fentanyl, and I ended up overdosing.
Oh, wow.
And the emergency services said I was dead for about 10 minutes. And my cousins if it wasn't for my cousins, I wouldn't be here right now. Yeah, it was tough. It was a wake-up call for sure, but at the same time, I just went right back to what I was doing stuff, doing dumb drugs.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it really, I realized what I put my family through, my parents, and all my old friends, you know, knowing that I was still selfish and in my addiction. And there's still some people I keep in contact with, you know, to make sure they're doing good. But I try to distance myself from certain people because I know my old self, you know,
right,
and where it can lead to. But yeah, I just try to stay positive now because I know with being in the negative state of mind and being my old self, I can go downhill really fast. But yeah, I mean, I just want to do good. I'm sick of doing the wrong thing, you know, and I want people to see that I'm doing good.
How old are you, Ken?
I'm 20 years old.
Okay. So when you walked in to the Adult and Teen Challenge Program, was that the first time you had attempted any kind of recovery?
Yep.
So you weren't familiar with the recovery community or the recovery world at all at that point?
No. I mean, my parents had mentioned Teen Challenge a while back, quite a while back before I actually went in, you know, and my sister's friend, she had her parents interned up in Bend, I believe. And she's the one that kind of like was like, hey, if you want to go to a recovery program, go here. And it's Christian based. So I tried that out, went in there willingly, knowing I was dealing with legal issues. And I obviously got caught up in some things that I shouldn't have done, which I regret because I really wanted to graduate that program. But yeah,
and I want to make something very clear to anybody who may be listening. Because you said you wanted to graduate that program. Okay, you did not graduate the program, but you still are an alumni. And alumni does not necessarily mean that you graduate. Alumni means anybody that attended, right?
Yeah.
And you were it was a big part of your life for quite a while.
Yeah.
You know, and I just want, and I've encouraged you with this before. I want you to know that knowing you and seeing how you're doing now, you did accomplish what God wanted you to accomplish while you were there. Right? Just because you didn't get a piece of paper and you didn't cross all your T's and dot your I's the way that maybe you yourself would have preferred.
Yeah.
God still used it to do some mighty things in your life. True?
Yeah, that is very true.
What's some of the stuff that you learned while you were there about Keian?
Oh man. So one big thing was my anxiety and anger. I learned how to deal with that. That was a big one.
Yeah.
I used to be like all over the place. I'd get so mad so easy and just be ready to snap on people, you know. But one thing I really learned there was to have patience and accept things for what it is, you know, and that helped me out a lot because I had more patience, more understanding on how things work, you know, in the real world. And I got really close to God there. I mean, I'm still really close with him. You know, before I even came into the program, I was still Christian, but me and my addiction, I didn't really have that spiritual connection like I do now. And I hated it because I wanted to get to know my Lord and Savior more. And I just couldn't come to it. And anytime I'd be like having troubles or struggling, my dad would be like, you know, you can come talk to me or pray about it, you know. And I'd be like, all right, but I never would. And I'd tell him I'd pray about it, but I really wouldn't because I struggled a lot being like praying, let alone like praying for myself. And yeah, during the times from Teen Challenge until now, I mean, I don't have a problem praying with prayer, you know. Like, I'll pray for anybody any time of the day. I'll pray for myself. I don't have a problem with it. And
why do you think that changed? What was the shift?
I know a lot of it has to do with me not being on drugs.
Ah.
That's a big one.
Imagine that, right, Roger?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's with being able to be sober minded and having more of an understanding on things, and being able to plug in more of my church, you know, with family and stuff, that helps out a lot. It really does. Like, we go to church every Sunday. I look forward to it. I really love it. And it's just a good time. You know?
Yeah.
You can feel the presence of God there. I can feel the presence of God anywhere.
Sure.
But yeah, it's amazing. It really is.
So let me tap into Roger for a minute, right? Roger, you and I are, you know, we're kind of ancient compared to Keian here, but speak to this if you would, Roger. Give us a little bit of your thoughts about, you know, the struggle with chemical addiction, even though you believe and love the Lord. I mean, it's not either or. Sometimes they coexist, true?
I was listening to Ian. I mean, I 100% relate. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, my story is much like yours, although I was much more stubborn than you. I didn't get sober till I was 44. So, but I always believed in Christ. I always believed in God the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. But when I was under the influence of anything, drugs or alcohol, for me, it was impossible to have a relationship with the Lord. It was impossible. So that whole concept of finally admitting to our innermost self that we're an alcoholic, and that's the first step in recovery, opens the door, I believe, for us to have the relationship that God always wanted for us. And it isn't that we didn't want it, but you said it so well that you were full of guilt and shame. You were full of guilt and shame. And when we're under the influence, yeah, we don't want to talk to people because we feel so bad about ourselves. And the 12 steps for me opened the door to an amazing life with God. And that's why I believe he created them, for the very reason that you so appropriately just explained. And as a result of that, you love church, you love relationships, you love talking to people now. You'll pray for anybody. That's not the way it was before you got clean and sober. Right. And it's my story, too. And Monty will say the same thing. When I meet people that go through what we go through, the spiritual awakening is a result of the 12 steps. The spiritual experiences we have along the road are like every moment that we're looking for God's will in our life. When life shows up and we don't know what's happening, and we seek his purpose and will in it, we get to learn a lesson. And the lesson becomes our experience, and our experience becomes our strength. And then we get full of so much bloody hope that we got to give it away to somebody. And that's the beauty of it. You know, that you read in the big book on page 77, it says our purpose is to be of maximum service to God and others. That's pretty simple, straightforward. Impossible to be of maximum service to God and others under the influence. Absolutely impossible. And then Satan tells you no good, and God hates you, and, you know, don't tell your parents, they'll hate you, and it just goes on and on. I see you shaking your head. You're obviously relating.
Yeah. So let's speak to that. When you first came in, and you and I have talked about this at length before, you sat in my office and you were at the jumping off place, right? You were at your end, you know, and the thing that you were, correct me if I'm wrong, the thing that you were dealing with the most was, you know, this almost like this betrayal that you had done against your folks. I mean, you were weeping. I mean, Roger, and it wasn't, I got caught weeping. It was truly a repentant moment of just release, right?
Yeah.
Had you ever done that before? Was that the first time you'd actually,
I mean, to a certain extent, yeah. I mean, I've cried multiple times, like, to my parents, but that was me apologizing when, I was doing drugs or something. I got caught.
Right.
I apologize. Obviously, I truly meant it, but still, I'd go right back to the same thing.
Sure.
But, honestly, when I came in and just let go, just ready to give my life to the Lord, that's like when I was crying so hard, I didn't have that shame and guilt anymore, really.
Yeah.
When I was in your room, but it's just come from me and my background. Where should I go with this? Yeah, me and my background. I've always been into sports and stuff, and was just really active. And then I got into marijuana, drugs, and stuff, and didn't get to do sports anymore because of that. Grades were really bad back in high school, and that had a big part in me and my self-doubt and putting myself down.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'd constantly be... the thing that'd be running in the back of my head would be, I could have did better,
Yep.
Like, where could I be now if I didn't do drugs or alcohol or anything like that?
Right.
And I would constantly go back on that. So I'd use that as an excuse to take drugs, to self-isolate. And then
Sure.
I'd feel better about myself. And then, like, for instance, I'd be coming down, and then I'd just go on this whole pity party about, oh, poor me, I could have did better. So then I'd take more drugs, and it'd just be a continuous cycle,
Good old relapse cycle. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Wait, so when you were getting kind of on the other side of this thing, and your relationship with your parents was healing and so forth, what was that like? This amends process you made with them.
It felt really good, I mean, there's still some things I have to work out, and
sure,
my parents are still, gaining my trust back, and I've burnt bridges with them many times, and to where they don't trust me anymore, and I'm getting that trust back, and it feels good, knowing that my parents can trust me to a certain extent, because,
got a ways to go, though?
Yeah, I'd say so, but at the same time, it makes me hold myself accountable, because I'm like, if I mess up again, it's really, I'm not going to get anywhere, and it's just going to burn that bridge again with my parents, and I'm going to have to regain their trust all over again.
Sure.
And during my time in Teen Challenge, when they could see I was doing better, it made them happy. It made them, I could genuinely see the smile on their face. And
that really makes you happy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
does. Yeah, it does. I can tell.
Nothing makes me happier
know.
than being able to see my family happy, that they can see I'm doing good.
Right.
And even with my friends, I just hope that if any of my friends are struggling out there, that they can see this and it can help them.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have to deal with another death,
Yeah.
Because it's hard. But
where'd you get such a tender heart? Isn't it interesting, Roger, how addicts and alcoholics in their cups can be the most tender-hearted, the most talented, the most loving, giving, hardworking people in the world? And we get labeled all sorts of things that are opposite of that. But you look at this guy. I mean, I know how devastated he was when he felt that he was letting his parents down. And I know by him sitting here right now how overjoyed he is that his parents are beginning to regain the trust in him. And he's making, not just because he's feeling better about himself, but that his parents are feeling good about them. and that's very important to you.
Oh yeah,
right. It amazes me when you remove some of the stuff out of our lives, what you find. We are a mystery. You pull back the veneer of the active addictions, and we find some incredibly talented and loving folks.
Right.
You take your friendships very seriously. You take your relationships very seriously. And you got lost for a while.
Yep. Very lost.
A couple of times.
Oh yeah.
Right. But you're back on the beam. Right. And how important is it for you, this spiritual walk that you have with Jesus?
Oh man, it's very important. Like being from back to my family and our background, we've always been Christians. Like my dad grew up Amish Mennonite, and my grandparents as well. They were pretty strict Mennonite back then, anyway. And I was having I'm a hosteler. A lot of our if not everybody, every one of us hostelers, are Christians, and there's a lot of us around here, and I take it very seriously. Now that I'm not in my addiction, and I take my Christianity and my religion very seriously. Yeah. And same with all my family members.
Sure. Now you guys were all together, right? Yesterday, yep. Resurrection Sunday.
Yep.
That wasn't always the case.
Yep.
Keian was out doing his thing. How'd that feel to all come together? Because I saw pictures on social media. You got a big brood of folks there.
Oh yeah, not all of them were there either.
Oh wow!
But so for a lot of family functions, back in my addiction, I'd be high, or on Xanax, and mainly everybody could tell because you can't tell, and to be able to yesterday to be able to go hang out with family, and I'm gonna cry again.
That's
and
okay.
Be sober and just have a good time, staying sober, and it's just it's a blessing. It really is, because every Sunday, I don't know, the last year or so, it's always how it's been. We'd go over to my grandparents, have dinner, or lunch or dinner, and we'd all just have a good time. And back then in my addiction, I would just be I'd be a grump all the time. I'd just be like, oh, I don't need to get stoned or whatever. And in order to have a fun time, with family members. And
couldn't get out of there fast enough.
Yeah. Right. And I'd always want to be leaving early or be just bored.
Yeah.
And, yesterday, it was a good time. I genuinely had an amazing time.
Yeah.
And to be able to sit around with family and see all of them smiling and have a good time.
Yeah.
I couldn't ask for much more.
Right.
Really.
Roger, you any questions for Keian or anything you'd like to say?
I'm just relating to his shares, and I think it's our stories that the people that we were created to be are the people we become after we eliminate drugs and alcohol from our system. And then we begin to see who God created us to be. And our story of recovery and our testimony has tremendous power for people that are still struggling. It doesn't matter what they're struggling with.
Right.
God is the answer. And in our case, it's drugs and alcohol, along with all the other character defects that we carry around.
Sure.
And it's heartwarming to hear the story. The funny thing is how we think before we get sober, and then how we realize what the truth is. And the truth is what we thought was never true. About ourselves, about our parents, about our family, our friends, about employers. It was all completely distorted, and because we didn't think clearly. And it's impossible to be of service to somebody or be selfless under the influence. That's been my reality for sure.
Yeah.
So when I'm around other people that have recovered from that hopeless state of mind, body, and spirit, I love it. It's a testimony to who the God is that we serve, and what our purpose is here. And when we do our purpose, we're happy, joyous, and free. And when we don't, we're miserable. and I don't want to be miserable anymore. Right, Monty?
No more misery.
No.
No. The paper cut, maybe. But
I could deal with a paper cut today. It would have been a major issue before.
Yeah. So
I would have had to find somebody to blame for the paper cut. Look, Monty, what you made me do.
Yeah. Yeah. When you did this, it caused me to do that. And shame on you, you know. And Keian, you and I have talked before about emotional sobriety, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm big on that. And we have to take responsibility for who we are, right? And things that we've done. And so we're having something happen right now. I don't know if you could hear it. The room's pretty soundproof, but there's some pounding and stuff going on in the studio and on the house next door, which is our property. We're having our home recited. And whenever you have something on the outside removed, you get to discover what's on the inside, right? And it could be kind of a scary little venture. And I'm learning, oh, gee, didn't know that was there. Sometimes you find rot, right?
Oh, yeah.
Thank goodness we haven't found any serious rot, although we suspected there was going to be more than there was. But you uncover it, you know. And once you uncover it, then you discover it. And once you discover it, you know, you have to recover from it, right? You have to change things. So you got to remove the stinky rot, and you got to replace it with new boards. And unfortunately, there are some siders that will find something like that, but they won't replace it. They'll just side right over the top of it. And it looks good until the storms come, and then there's problems. And then you find out, you know. And so what we found out in uncovering, you know, the side and the aluminum siding was that our house, when it was built in 1945, they didn't put much insulation in. They just didn't. We never had really a problem with that. Because the wood siding that was on kind of served as the insulation, but we found all these little hidden gems that we didn't know about. And so you take care of these things as you discover them. And but it speaks to the fact that sometimes you've got to tear things off so you can rebuild properly, you know. And is there something, Keian, in your life? Well, okay, you talked about your anger in that, but is there something that was harder to fix than other things? Anything specifically?
I know. Let's see, my self-doubt.
Your self-doubt.
Yeah,
that was a big one.
Big one. That was probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'd constantly put myself down. And that would just lead to drugs.
Right.
That isolate.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, that was the biggest one, I'd say, because I was always too afraid of what I thought, what people would think of me. And now I'm just like, I don't care what people think of me. You know, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing good. I'm doing good in life. So, and if they're judging me, who are they to judge? They're no better than me, really.
So you don't have to internalize their opinion of you, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're not defined by what they think.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about you now. Right? So what are you about to do? You're about to go
train for wildland firefighting.
Wildland firefighting.
Yep.
Now, that sounds pretty self-descriptive. I mean, it literally is going out fighting wildfires.
Yep.
Not the building on fire downtown, right? But the hillside that's on fire that's threatening all the houses on the other side. Right? Why the heck would you want to do such a thing?
I had an uncle that did it probably about 2010, 2011, somewhere in there. And, you know, I've wanted to be a firefighter my whole life, really, even since I was a little kid, even like in rural and city areas.
Yeah?
You know. I just loved it. And I was going to do it the other year, or probably about 2 years back, and I didn't get my FEMA tests done. so I didn't get to go actual train. But yeah, Thursday through Sunday this week, I got to go train.
Yeah,
we'll see how that goes. I'm pretty confident, but yeah, I mean, I love being out in the woods. I'm an avid hunter, fisherman, and I love being out in the woods. And I just hate when things burn for acres on acres, and then it's like pushes game, and it just takes the fun out of a lot of things. And I'd like to be able to be a part of
the solution.
Yeah. Be on a crew, to be able to help prevent fires, and yeah, it's just something I've always wanted to try out. So we're going to try it out and see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, hey, Roger, Southern California, you guys are no stranger to wildfires, right?
Oh my gosh, no. And this year will be no different with all the rains and stuff. So there'll be shrubs everywhere. And when it gets hot and dries out, yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the cycle.
It's a profession that needs people, needs good people,
For sure.
And you certainly can't be, successful at it under the influence of mind-altering substances. You got to be clear-headed, right?
Yeah,
Keian?
You gotta. Yeah, you can't be on any type of drugs, alcohol, or anything. Otherwise, you'll get disqualified.
They be testing you a lot.
Yep.
Well, that's good.
Yep. I looked at it as another sort of accountability.
Sure.
And I like that because that's something I want to go do. And in order to do it, I have to be clean.
Yep.
And I know.
Safe to say that accountability and responsibility were never two of your attributes or virtues when you were under the influence, right?
Right.
Yeah, me either.
There was no transparency, no accountability, no responsibility. I ran from all of that.
I feel you on that. And yeah, and with being on a crew or something like that, not saying I'm going to, but like if, for instance, say if somebody was to, take drugs or something, they could be putting their whole crew or somebody's life on the line. And that's what I don't want to do.
Yeah, that becomes very real. I mean, of course you're putting people's lives on the line when you're out in the real world driving and you're under the, but we don't think of it as much.
Right.
But when you're working together as a team and you're dependent on each other for every minute.
Exactly.
Right. Your buddy best be clean and sober.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, good for you, man. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Me too.
Really yeah.
Thank you.
A good deal. It's a good deal. You are like I said, you're a tender-hearted guy. He's like Santos. He's a tender-hearted guy from last week's show, right?
Yeah.
You guys are good friends. And I know you guys are going to keep in contact.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
I'm proud of you, watching you grow. And I want to say this, and I want to make it very clear that people understand this. A person's recovery journey is not necessarily going to look like the next guy's. Right. Some people plug themselves into 12-step fellowships and they're involved in them through their entire life. That's me. Other people plug themselves into a spiritual network that may be surrounded around, church or another spiritual base. It may be synagogue or whatever, and they stay plugged into that. Somebody else maybe have a coffee club of people that they're plugged into. What they all have in common is what Roger said: accountability. Right. Where people have permission from us to call us out anytime they think we're going sideways, even if they're wrong.
Yeah.
Because we'll get over the offense. Right. But if they don't say something and they're right, we may not get over being on the wrong side of the grass.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think as long as you continue to do that, make yourself accountable, and you know what works for Keian, right? Yeah. And as long as you give away the things that have been given to you, and one of the ways of doing that is being a firefighter, I think you'll do well. And I get a little impatient with folks that think that recovery has to be cookie cutter. and everybody's just got to look like this. That's just not, I mean, I used to be that way. I used to be very evangelical in that opinion. It's got to be like this. Roger, what do you think? I mean, everybody's a little different, right?
I totally agree. I think all of us in our spiritual immaturity or even recovery immaturity tend to want to think it's one way and one way only.
Sure.
That removes God from working. It's like he's got a plan, and I need to be out of the way and let him work.
Yeah.
It's going to take us where it's going to take us, and we're going to be part of that. And that's the beautiful thing of the journey.
Sure.
It's exciting.
So we are closing down here, running out of time. Keian, you have the last word, man. What would you like to say to close out the show?
Let's see. If you're struggling with anything, take a moment to turn to God for prayer and, just pray about it, whatever your struggles are, and just continue to do that. Talk with family members, anybody that you can trust, and, just continue to do the right thing and follow God, and I believe everything will be all right.
Follow God and everything will be all right. May not be comfortable, may not be pleasant, may have challenges, but it'll be all right.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. So, brother, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Everything you do. Everything you have done for me, I really appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you, buddy. I love you big time.
I love you too.
I love your hugs, man. All right. So, in Keian's case, he went through Adult and Teen Challenge. If you want to look for an Adult and Teen Challenge center or an adolescent center, as far as that goes, near you, visit teenchallengeusa.com. If you're looking for other programs, outpatient as well as inpatient, residential as well, visit our resource page at take12radio.com and click on the recovery resource banner. All right. Roger, thank you so much for joining us, as always. Our closing song is by our good friend J.J. McCabe, and it's entitled God Does. Here's J.J.
And it doesn't work like that anymore. I can't change my mind. It's with me all the time. And time lets me know that one for sure. I've been given all the answers, but I couldn't pass the test. It's time I leave it for the moment and give myself a rest. I can't change the world, just watch it go by. I'm wondering why, oh why can't I fly like a bird, stay to my word? Well, haven't you heard the good news yet? Who made the flower? And who makes it rain? Who eases sorrow, takes away the pain? God does. change my life. I need to grow. Well, how do I learn what I don't know? Give up my will, let you do your part, and trust that it's you who changed my heart. You made the flowers, and you make it rain. You ease my sorrow, you take away my pain. God does.
J.J. McCabe, God does. A very special thank you to my guest this week, Keian Hostetler, for sharing his experience, strength, and hope, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. And, of course, our co-host and Southern California buddy, Roger McDermott. And all of you who make Take 12 Recovery Radio possible, we are so grateful that you do. Listen, if you would like to subscribe for fun and for free, visit our website at take12radio.com and subscribe on any of the podcasting platforms listed there. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty'man along with the rest of the Take 12 Recovery Radio family, and we are wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.